to our power, Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahushai, Ba'Hashem, Rakakodash. I want to give double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, hearing this word in truth and in sincerity. Okay, so, Salakia, I'm the brother Iowa Lum from the GMS West Palm Beach Camp, back with another lesson. This one being, they are not in trouble as other men. Okay, and this is concerning the Edomites, and how pretty much they're not struggling, all right, like we're struggling, all right. They're not struggling like, all right, the other nations are struggling, but more so, the Israelites, man, because they're not under the curses, and this is really inspired by a post, and Lord willing, I'll put the post in post-production, but pretty much, Salakia, let me make sure this thing is so it's recording, and I'm gonna put it in post-production, but pretty much it's a post about an Edomite that went to Haiti, all right, where the Levites are, right, and he pretty much, quote unquote, raped young girls, man, and of course it says that he was locked up, but I doubt that he got a heavy prison sentence because they don't get that kind of judgment here in this society. The Edomites and the wickedness that they do. He probably just got a slap on the wrist. And he probably not even behind bars. They just put the news out there that he's locked up to appease the people, man. But we understand that the Edomites, they look after their own. Okay. So, but this is Psalm 73 in verse. I can start from 2 actually because it goes into that. This is Psalm 73 and 2. But as for me, my feet were almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped. It says, for I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. You see? And in this society, all right, we see the wicked prosper. We see the Edomites, they say whatever they want, all right, and they do whatever they want pretty much. And there's no judgment right away for it. But we understand that judgment is in the hand of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. I'm not saying that they're not going to get their judgment. What I'm saying is that in this society, they don't get judged like the rulers, the judges, right? Which is Esau. They don't give proper judgment, and that's why those of their own kind, those of their own people, get away with grievous things, man. Grievous things. Like, let's say, for example, something that Esau would do, and Jake did the same thing. Jake might get 20 years in prison. Let an Edomite of notoriety do it. He's gonna be on the news more than likely, but what I'm saying, he's not gonna be penalized as Jake would get penalized. And that's how it is in this kingdom, man. This is Esau's kingdom. They are not in trouble as other men. It says, verse 4, for there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. Slakia. Verse 5, they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. You see? They're not in trouble like other men. See, we got to wake up, go to work every day, bust our ass for Esau's kingdom, man. But you got the elite, they sit on a high horse, They got everything at their command, but yet they're not satisfied. They're not in trouble like other men. Esau, Edom, and I'm talking about the elite, right? There's a lot of shit that they've done and are still doing, all right? Even the average Edomite, they're doing some wickedness, but they're not receiving the judgment that they're supposed to for it, But once again, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai got the judgment stored up for them, because You know, us being Yahweh Shem Yahushua's people, you know, we do the same shit that Esau do. The Lord coming down on us hard, man. You know, because we're his people. The Edomites, you know, the Lord hates the Edomites, so hey, they do certain shit. The Lord's gonna let them keep doing it. You know? He gonna let them keep doing it until he rain that judgment on them. You know? And I love to go back to the story of, I want to say, the Amorites, which were Canaanites, by the way. You know, Hamites. You know, and pretty much when Yahweh Shem Yahushua, I think, told Abraham, the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet fulfilled. You know? And we can use that same concept for the Edomites. Alright, the Lord's letting their iniquity build up so that he can bring forth that judgment on them. And when he do, it's going to be the hardest judgment this earth has ever seen. You know, when you read the scriptures, you think that some of the judgments, you know, are harsh. Wait till you see the judgment of the Edomites, man. Wait till you see the judgment of America, Babylon the Great. You know? And also, when you see these judgments, you're going to appreciate the fact that Yahweh Shem Yahushua, you know, judged you earlier for the shit that you did. You know? There's a lot of things that, you know, we've done and, you know, are still doing unknowingly that Yahweh Shem Yahushua, you know, winks at. But of course, the Lord does judge certain things, man. But when that final judgment come, you know, we want to be kept from it. You know? Because, you know, we're in sinful bodies, so, you know, we're going to still, you know, go off. We're going to still sin until Yahweh comes back and changes, man. So, you know, we're going to continue to, you know, get, you know, little judgments for things that we do in this flesh, man. You know, but nevertheless, you know, Tawada Yahweh Shem Yahushua for correcting us, man. You know, as for Esau, the Lord doesn't correct Esau right away, but he will correct Esau, you know, with that nuclear fire, man. All right, he's gonna correct Esau by destroying this society. All right, let's go to the Book of Psalms, the 10th chapter. Another one of my favorites. Psalms chapter 10, in verse 2, it says, "The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined." You know, because, you know, while Esau, Edom, you know, was doing all this wickedness on the earth, his mind, his heart is still set against coming against Israel, man. You know, like what made this man think, oh, I'm gonna go to Haiti? All right, and if I'm not mistaken, this was under the guise of Christianity too, man. You know, but what made somebody, you know, go to Haiti and say, I'm going to, you know, roughly, you know, this is the mindset of an Edomite, what I'm saying. What makes a guy go to Haiti and say, I'm going to, you know, pretty much, you know, R.A.P. eat little girls, man? This is a vile and wicked man. All right. That's why the scripture says that Esau, Edom, you know, Slakia. That's why the scripture says that Esau, Edom, it says, "Lest there be any fornicator or profane person." Now, I almost hit a possum, man. These fucking animals up. Slakia. Man. It said, "Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau," man. Damn, these animals, I see why they get hit on the road, man. They just be, you know, standing there looking at a car coming, man. But it says, "Lest there be any profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright." But the point I want to hit there is profane. You know, Esau, Edom is profane, and they're vile, man. The lowest nation on this planet, yet, you know, they've exalted themselves as the best nation on this earth, man. You know, which is the biggest scam in human history. You know, the biggest lie told in human history, man. All right. It says, so I can park this car real quick. It says, "The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after the Most High. power is not in all his thoughts. Yeah, Yahweh Shem Yahushua is not in his thoughts. Because if Yahweh Shem Yahushua was in his thoughts, Esau Edom would not be going to Haiti or, molesting little children. Esau Edom would not do half the shit that he do. Just like Yahweh Shem Yahushua is in our thoughts. And that's why we think twice before we do certain things. Hey, before we eat something, right? We inquire if it got pork in it, if it got shrimp, lobster in it. We think about shit like that. Before, let's say if you want to talk to a woman, before you approach her or whatever, you try and find out if she got a man or not. You know what I'm saying? So it's like different things, right? That show that Yahweh Shem Yahushua is in our hearts, man. He's in our thoughts. Okay? Verse 5 says, his ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. Right? That's his thoughts. Hey, I get to do all this wickedness. I get to do, a lot of shit under the sun. I'll never be in adversity. Who's gonna stop me? Because hey, his blessing is a sword. So anybody that do come against him, what he do? He's coming down with the sword, man. So that's why Esau Edom, does certain things and thinks he's gonna get away with it. Verse 7 says his mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. Because all they talk about, is what they're gonna do. All right, concerning the future. All right, concerning Yahweh Shem Yahushua, they mock the Lord. Different things that Esau Edom do that shows his lack of reverence to the Creator, Yahushua. Okay, Jeremiah. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 10. No, it's like at 49 and 10. Jeremiah chapter 49 and verse 10. And it says, but I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret place, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not. The Lord has made Esau bare, because that same article or news that came out, whether it's true or not, they're into stuff like that. Me personally, I believe it to be true because, Esau, that's not like something that Esau would do. Okay? But the Lord has made Esau bare. Because back then, you wouldn't have believed that a so-called white person did about act like that. But now, when an article or news come out like that, you're like, yep, he did it. Whatever they're saying he did it. All right, because Esau Edom's not being looked at as the epitome of good anymore, the epitome of righteousness. And back then when you looked at the Edomite, they'll give you that smirk. That smirk that every Edomite do. You'd be like, whenever you see Edomite, you tighten up around them. Back in the days, you tighten up around them like, you'll act a certain type of way that you wouldn't around your own people. Around Jake, you'll let loose, hey, you say nigga, you'll use a lot of quote unquote profanity, but around the Edomite, you stand straight. All right, you correct your grammar. It's a lot of shit. It's a lot of shit that you do around Esau, man, to pretty much, appease Esau. Why? Because you thought that he was the best thing going. You didn't want to offend Edomites. Now, you go around a damn Edomite, it's like whatever, bro. They give you that smirk, you don't even react to that shit, man. Because Esau Edom is being made bare. You're not the best thing going no more, Esau. Matter of fact, what's happening is that you're being brought down, and Israel is being elevated by Yahweh Shem Yahushua. This is why now everybody wants to be so-called black, Latino, Native American. Everybody want a piece of this pie now. But now, it's too late. But the point is that, the tides are turning. Yahweh Shem Yahushua is getting ready to put us on top, Lord willing, beginning with the elect. Okay? But, that's pretty much the point, Lord willing. This lesson was edifying. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. I want to give double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the full elect, hearing this word in truth and in sincerity. Until next time, I say shalom.